computer.
Let them in.
We're recording, yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
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 Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Good evening or good afternoon for us. Good evening for you.
Yeah, good evening and good afternoon to you.
Oh,
Beth, I just need to do something quickly.
okay. Oh, hello, everybody.
Hello. Yes.
Right, we're just waiting. A few people are still connecting to audio, I think. So we'll just give it a few minutes. Can I ask you to turn off your microphone at the moment, please? There will be plenty of opportunity to talk to each other later, but for the moment, just so we don't get a lot of feedback and background noise, if you could turn off your microphones, that would be great. While we're waiting, here's a task for you to complete. So look at these sentences or the beginning part of some sentences. Perhaps you recognize them from Unit 5. Can you complete some of the sentences? So choose the ones that are most interesting for you, perhaps, and put a complete sentence in the chat box. So, for example, for me, I'm happy when my learners understand a complicated grammar rule. What about you? Choose one or two of these sentences to complete and put them in the chat box while we wait.
Brilliant.
If my learners
Some more people waiting.
Yeah.
Let them in.
Hello, welcome to the people who are just arriving. And there's a task on the screen for you to complete.
Good. Think about the language from the unit. Someone just muted me.
Sorry.
Think about the zero conditional from the unit as you do these. Somebody's put a message in already. Ninung, I'll help them.
Yep, good. So I guess that's the first one. If my learners ask for help, I'll help them.
Yep.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Good.
Are just the same. Yeah.
That's useful.
Give a few more minutes for other people to share.
Do the homework. I'm so confused. Yeah, Agus, I'm so confused.
What else? Another few minutes.
Okay. I will be so sad. Verb to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Muddy. I'm happy when my students smile in my class.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
Agree
me
with that
too.
one.
Absolutely. Okay. Good. So as Nick said, this was just to review a little bit of the language that we looked at in Unit 5. So this use of the zero conditional, so the present tense and the present tense, to talk about facts, things that are always true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of things. A couple of people have put I will, so which is correct. So for example, somebody put when my student doesn't do their homework, I'll be so sad, or I will help them. This is correct. This is the first conditional, but you're perhaps talking about something you don't expect, or a situation that perhaps happens once, something like that, when we tend to use zero conditional, talking about more regular occurrences every time it happens. So both are correct. There's just a slight difference in meaning there. Okay, brilliant.
Okay, great. So let's look at the plan for today.
Yep. So the first objective, and you've just done that briefly, is to review the zero conditional. We're not going to spend much time on language. Please do review that in the Foundry if you're confused with its use. Okay. So what's the next aim of the session? We're going to share ideas about setting our learners' homework. So you looked at that already in Unit 5, and we're going to just develop that and spend a little bit of time thinking about setting our learners' homework. And then the next task is to think about developing reading skills, and specifically about extensive reading. That was one of the sections again in Unit 5. We think it's quite important, and teachers tend to like this kind of thing because it gives a bit of autonomy to their learners and gets their learners, taking responsibility. And the final task, as usual, is to reflect on what we've done in this unit. So thinking about taking things further as well. Brilliant. Okay.
All right, thanks, Nick. So let's make a start with the first topic then, which is setting homework. Hopefully you have some ideas about this from the unit, but obviously also from your own experience. So think about some of the advantages and disadvantages of setting our students' homework. Have a think for a few minutes, and then when you're ready, when you've got some ideas, if you share in the chat box. So we've got an example. I think my learners are too busy to do any homework. So this is perhaps one problem or disadvantage with it. What else can you think of? Good point, Muddy. Thank you. So it can help, I guess you're saying, to motivate the learners to work outside of the classroom if they're given some specific homework to do.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's good.
Really good point. Wait a little longer for other people to share some ideas. Very good point, Nina. Absolutely. So it's one way that both the students themselves and us as teachers can measure or gauge their understanding of what's been covered in class, perhaps. Good. Yeah, exactly. So the same idea, an evaluation of the learning process to know their understanding. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Ninung has put a disadvantage here from the teacher's point of view. So we need more time to check homework as well. This is something important to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. We've got some good ideas here. You're going to have some time to develop these ideas further. Can Okay, yeah, there's a problem with the slides.
Just go
You're
to
right.
the next. Just go to the next one on Beth. I think it's been out of order. That's yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we're going to put you into breakout rooms. You have about 5 minutes in the breakout room to discuss these questions, and these were questions from the unit. So the questions are.
Yep.
So how often do you set your learners' homework? Maybe once a week, once a month. What homework do you give your learners? Do you give them, worksheets to do, or do you give them something else? And finally, do they do their homework? Why or why not? So you might find that some of your learners do their homework and some don't. And if they don't do their homework, perhaps why not? What can you can do to encourage them perhaps to do their homework? Okay, so we're going to put you into groups. How many is in each group, Beth?
I think there's not so many people here today, so I think we'll have 4 rooms with maybe 3 or 4 people in each room.
Okay, and in your group, yeah, you can make some notes on some paper or something like that. Then when we come into the main room, if you want to share your ideas together, that would be great. Great.
Okay, so you'll have 5 minutes to do this. So I'll put you into the rooms now. Oh, Amin is arriving.
Brilliant. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
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 Just shared the message to you.
Yeah. Okay, yes. I can read it.
How often do you set homework?
How often do you sample with homework do you give you?
So how can we answer the question through this chat room?
Yeah.
Okay, let me introduce myself. I'm Amin from Semarang. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Amir. I am Mudi from Rembang.
Rembang.
Okay.
Okay. The first question is setting homework, right? What do you think about the ideas expressed in the unit? Correct? What do you think about the ideas expressed in this unit?
The questions are in the chat box. Homework.
Right. I think there are many advantages and disadvantages of giving homework. Take, for example, the disadvantages of
Teaching or after giving material or at the end of the lesson, I give the homework for student. And also, I do not give student too much homework. I only give them about 5 or 10 question, 5 or 10 multiple choice like that.
Okay. And for me, for my students, I sometimes give them homework because our regulation about do not give much homework to our students, because that's our ministry, yes, regulation that we cannot give them much homework.
Homework, yeah.
For 5 days school, for 5 days, they have to stay at school from 7 to 3 p.m. So they have much time to work their homework at school. So I do not give them homework, much homework, so they can have a leisure time at their home, yes. But for me, homework is important for the students for measuring their ability in understanding the material. That's for my students.
Okay. For me,
How about you, Ibu Ninung?
okay. For me, I usually give my students homework when I finish the material or when I finish the unit.
Hi, welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
It's just a quick task.
Yes, I know. As usual, yeah, the time's very limited, not long enough, but there will be another group work task later.
Only 5 minutes.
I know, very,
We
very
haven't
short.
ended our
Okay,
session.
I
only
forget
5
the
minutes.
time.
Haven't finished our discussion.
I know.
Very fast.
Don't worry, you'll have more time for the next task. So don't worry if you didn't talk about all of the questions. I think the groups that I was in, maybe you only had time to talk about A and B, perhaps. It's just one of those things. We've got some, I mean, you had lots of ideas yourselves, but we've got some suggestions that we could share with you as well now.
Just one thing that came up in my group,
right.
just the pronunciation of this word. It's homework. It's an O sound, homework. Some people were saying homework. It's homework. It's an O sound. So your mouth needs to be nice and wide. Yeah. Exactly. That's perfect. Brilliant. Okay, so we heard lots of things. I had lots of good things, and this is just a summary of some ideas. So obviously there are advantages and disadvantages of setting homework. A lot of these were discussed in Unit 5, so please review that if you get the chance to do so. And we discussed that in some detail. We think, I mean, I'll jump to the third point. Somebody mentioned this in one of my groups. It really is, you know, you might think homework is really important, your students should do it, but if your school says you should only set a little amount, you know, perhaps your students work all day, you know, they've been at school all day, then really you have to consider what your school is doing and what's expected by the parents. The parents might want you to give them lots of homework. So that's something important to think about. Obviously, homework should complement schoolwork and not replace it. We, you know, we're the teachers, we're doing the work with our learners, but we do want to set them some homework perhaps to strengthen their learning, or perhaps we give them some work before the class, some vocabulary, so that in the lesson they do some reading. So more of a flipped approach here.
Yeah, can I just say some people were talking about that in one of the groups that I was in as well, and maybe getting the students starting to think about the topic of your lesson before they come to the lesson, so they're prepared as well. So could be just thinking about ideas related to the topic as well as vocabulary, I think.
Yeah, flipped learning, for example. Yeah, obviously somebody talked about not giving learners too much homework, you know, especially young children. If they're at school from 7 till 3 all day, I think they're quite tired. They probably want to relax and spend time with their family, not studying all the time. Obviously, it's different for older learners, older students. So, you know, I've heard discussions about engaging homework, so not just getting them to do a gap fill, you know, writing things. Perhaps they could watch a movie, or they could perhaps, I heard this morning someone was talking about making YouTube videos. You know, that's a brilliant homework. You know, as a learner, I'd like to make a YouTube video. I don't really want to be doing some writing. So things that the learners are interested in, you know, they're kids, they want to do stuff like this. Obviously, you have to consider if they have the technology to do this, though, that might not be necessary, might not be able to do that. Think about giving learners collaborative, you know, like you've got the WhatsApp group and you've been chatting together. That could be a great homework, putting them in groups and they discuss things together. Again, it's technology, but they could meet perhaps after school and speak in English. That's another way they could collaborate or design something together. And then obviously giving learners homework they can do on their own. So if the homework is too difficult, then the learners can't do it. You know, the hard stuff should be in the lesson. The homework should be something that your learners can do. And obviously we want our learners to perhaps choose the homework we do, because I think if the learner chooses what they want to do, then they're going to do it. And a good way to do this is, obviously we talked about in Unit 5, is extensive reading. Getting your learners involved in an extensive reading program, which has lots and lots of advantages, and I think can be quite a great homework.
And that's what we're going to move on to think about now. Okay, so okay, just reading some ideas in the chat box before we move on. So Intan has mentioned the idea of reading here and perhaps following on from a reading lesson. So I think extensive reading could be quite useful to complement the reading that you do in class as well. So what can you remember from the unit, or what do you know from your own experience about extensive reading? What is it? What do we mean by extensive reading? Can you put some ideas in the chat box, please? I think I have one example for you, in fact. So learners read as much as possible in English. All right. Yeah, Desi. Reading for enjoyment. So it's not an obligation, but it's because it's something that's enjoyable. Yeah, for pleasure, for fun, the same kind of idea. Good. What else do you know about it, or can you remember? What can we ask students to read extensively?
Reading speed, yeah, brilliant.
Okay, so we're getting some ideas about why and how it's a useful thing to do. Absolutely. Improving vocabulary, increasing reading speed. Yeah, reading as much as possible, enjoyment. Okay. Yeah. And it can be anything. Yeah. So again, it's this idea of what's motivating, what's engaging for the students. And as Nick mentioned before, if they choose what they want to read, it might be a magazine or a comic or a novel or a book or something factual, whatever they're interested in, then this is going to be more motivating, I think. Okay, so now you have more time to discuss your ideas together again. So again, there are 3 questions for you to consider. So the first one, how do you normally develop your learners' reading? So do you have any ideas or tips or techniques that you can share with your fellow teachers about what you usually do? Then think about the ideas that were suggested in Unit 5, if you've looked this far ahead so far, and are your ideas similar or different to the ideas that are suggested here? And then also, how can the ideas that we have discussed be adapted to your teaching context, your situation with your students? And you can think about this both inside the classroom and outside the classroom as well.
Yeah.
Now you can see that Nick's put a link to a Google Doc in the chat box. So if you click on that, you should see the document where there's space for you to share your ideas. And as we did before with the vocabulary teaching ideas, we'll be able to share this with everybody later. So you'll benefit from lots of ideas and experience here too. So when we put you into groups, you'll have 10 minutes to do this. Please take note. Yeah.
Sorry, I think we're quite ahead of time, so we could have a bit longer than 10 minutes with
okay,
this. Because
good.
it's only 25 past, isn't it? So I think we could have about 15 minutes, see how we get on with this.
Good. Well, I think that's what people want.
Yeah.
Want more time to speak. So please notice which group you're in. So if you're group 1, please write your ideas in the space for group 1 on the Google Doc. How many groups are we having this time, Nick?
I think we've got 4. 1, 2, 3,
groups
4,
again.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, and each one's got 3 in. So that's nice, actually. So just make sure I've got the timing right. I've set it to 5 minutes. I think I made a mistake with that. Okay, so yeah, we should move you into groups now. Make sure you write in the right document. Okay. Brilliant. If you click on the link, you should be able to join one of the rooms.
So I'm going to put Dahlia into group 3 because there's only 2 people in there. And
yeah, I'll move. Yeah, that's
maybe room 2 because only 1 person's joined there so far.
Give it a few. Yeah, Desi, if you want to join as well, I can see you in this main room.
That'll sometimes be connection problems, I think.
Yeah.
People can't.
I think she's got,
join. Right, I'm going to go to room 1 then.
Okay. Intana, you okay? You're still in here? Can you join?
Maybe you can share the screen.
Oh, okay. I will share the
screen.
Oh,
I'll put the link in the chat
Can you share the
box.
screen?
Okay.
Share screen.
I will share the link. Maybe Nick.
Thanks,
Nick. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nick. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Muddy.
We can click the. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a 4 point in the Google Doc.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first is, how do you normally develop your learners' readings? And then, did you use similar idea? And then, how can some of the ideas in here? And the last is your idea. Okay, maybe we can start discussing for the first questions. And then, how do you
Hi.
Yes, we have to. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Yes, my friend it's too hard to find a Google Docs link.
Okay.
I just put it in the chat box.
Yes,
Okay.
just open the chat box.
I have done.
Okay.
I have done it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's difficult on a phone, I think. It's much easier on a computer. But yeah, I know it's quite tricky.
Okay. How do you normally develop your learners reading?
Yes, that's the question. So we have to fill for the group 3.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I think increase vocabulary.
How do you normally develop your learners learning? Increasing vocabulary.
Yes, I normally develop students learners reading by improving or increasing vocabulary.
So we move to the second question. Do you see similar ideas to the one suggested in extensive reading, developing your students' reading skill? Why and why not?
Did you use similar ideas to the one suggested in extensive reading? Did you use? Yes. I use similar ideas to the ones I've suggested in extensive reading.
Yes. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Ma'am, if you want to type something, just type because
yeah, do type.
Everybody can type. Yes. Ibu Arjas, if you want to type something on the Google Docs, just type.
Yeah. Why? Because
yes,
I
of
think.
Course.
Because I think this idea is too simple for students, and they can do it alone. How do you say mandiri in English? Secara mandiri.
Ourselves, by ourselves.
Huh? Ourselves? By themselves, right?
By themselves.
Yes,
Yeah, by themselves.
By themselves. By
Yeah.
themselves.
By themselves.
Okay.
Excuse
thank
me,
you.
Nick. Do you know mandiri? Yes. Do you understand the meaning
No,
mandiri?
No,
Okay.
I'm just joking. I don't understand it, but in English you'd say they can do it by themselves, by themselves.
Oh yes,
by
by
themselves.
themselves,
Yes.
or independently, mandiri, independently. No,
yes.
I don't know
Something.
mandiri. I'm just guessing from what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Is it right? Is it
Thanks,
right,
Nick.
sir? Themselves or themselves?
By themselves. Let's have a look. What? So you're in your group 3, where you're right. Yeah, by them.
Self.
Yeah, VES. VES.
Oh, VS.
VES.
Because it's plural, isn't it? So one person.
Because I think this idea is too simple for students and they can do it by themselves. Okay.
By themselves. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Ibu Dahlia, if you have, Ibu Dahlia, if you want to type something, just
do to the next to number 2. Yeah, it's okay.
Brilliant.
Did you?
Number 2 diffuse similar ideas.
Good, Muddy.
Did we should write or answer the next question?
Yeah, maybe number 2. Yeah, the next questions.
Yeah.
Did you use similar idea to the one suggested in extensive reading, developing your student reading skill? Why and why not? Maybe who want to answer it?
Maybe so I'm sorry because I was late, a little bit late, so I didn't hear about the first explanation. Maybe the other can answer, and after that I can give my opinion.
Reading aloud, okay.
I have no idea.
Miss Dea?
Some objects, like that, maybe.
Your sum is with the capital letters. Can you replace it?
Yes.
Good ideas. Good ideas.
Some. Okay. Oh no, mistyping again.
Okay.
Object.
I will help you. Hey.
I have my learners always process reading every time and every time and everywhere when they see some object.
Okay. Think about reading in and outside the classroom. I do love reading outside the classroom. Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Reading outside the classroom.
Think about reading in and outside the classroom.
Yes. How about you? Nick, we have typed some ideas here.
Yeah, I'm looking at them here.
On the last. Think about reading in and outside the classroom.
It's just for the whole of your answers, Nina. So when you're answering any of the questions, just think about that. You know, if you're thinking about your ideas, because obviously, because I think reading is a good thing.
Ideas?
Yeah, I think extensive reading is something that we can try and get our learners to do outside the classroom as like homework, because in the classroom we can focus on reading quite intensely, reading every word, understanding a text in detail, but at home learners can perhaps just practice reading by reading longer, easy texts in their own time to develop their reading skills. And obviously if they're choosing what they want to read, it makes it really important, interesting, and they're hopefully more engaged as well, I think.
Yes. Excuse me, Nick, may I ask you?
Of course you can, yeah. Yeah, Nina, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Homework is a student's work in a school or tasks that they have to at home.
Yeah.
So I cannot call homework when I give them some task and they have to answer on the school. Not like that.
For example, in the UK, we have homework clubs. We have homework clubs. So the students finish their school day at 3 o'clock. And then after the school, they may stay at school and do their homework at school. There's no teacher. It's self-study.
That's homework.
Yeah, it's homework, but they're doing it at school. Yeah, that could be homework. So we have a homework club in the UK.
Homework
clubs. Yeah. So it's homework essentially means students do the work without the teacher being there.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so they could do it at school. They could have, you know, this in the UK, children go into a classroom. There's no well, there might be a teacher there to watch them, but they're doing the studying on their own. And then when they go home, they don't have any work to do. Yeah, collaborative work looks useful. Okay, I'll check the other
How can some of the ideas in here be adapted to your teaching context? Maybe you want to give answer or write in the chat box because of the sigil.
Magazine, yeah. Some good points here. Learners reading by reading their favorites. Yeah, so they don't have to read books. They could read a magazine, or they could read a news story. They could read a blog online. Extensive reading can be about reading, or reading, you know, we can read anything really. Think about what you read every day. Okay, good ideas. Okay, looks like we're leaving.
Oh, that.
Brilliant.
Hello, everybody.
Good
Welcome
ideas.
back.
Again.
Yep, absolutely. As I just said, I sent a message to everybody. I hope you saw it. Can you share with us your favorite idea that you heard during that discussion? So put it in the chat box so that we can all benefit from it. What was the best idea that you heard when discussing with your colleagues?
An idea, but I'll wait for everybody. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, extensive or any kind of reading doesn't have to be books. You know, a lot of people just don't read books. You know, adults don't read books. So perhaps get your learners to read other things.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much available online, as Dahlia says. So something that they're interested in. It could be a blog or something.
Yeah, comics, blogs, football reports. I don't know. Yes, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. History, maybe.
Mm.
Stories. Wikipedia is really useful, I think, really interesting. If you use Wikipedia, there's a basic English version.
Yeah. Again, maybe that's a point to make about extensive reading, that the material should be something that is relatively easy for the students to understand, so that they're not distracted by lots of unknown language. So quite easy to understand.
Yeah, because if the language is too difficult, they spend their time with their dictionary looking up every word, and then they're not reading, they're doing vocabulary work.
Exactly.
In
reading about our culture as well, our just has just put.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In unit 5, there are a lot of links actually to resources for lower level learners.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to share the screen again then, so we can just summarize some of the main points here. Okay, Nick?
Yeah, so, you know, I've done quite a bit of my own reading on extensive reading, and overall, it's a very good way to develop reading skills, but not only reading skills. So, you know, we can increase our reading speed. A lot of students, a lot of learners don't read quickly enough, especially if they're going to go on to university or work, they need to read quicker. So obviously the more they read, the better they get. Also, it's useful for increasing vocabulary. They're seeing language all the time, so they're seeing it in context. It's a really good way of developing their vocabulary or their range of vocabulary. Obviously, reading as much as possible improves your reading skills, your general reading skills, ability to find information, skimming, scanning. I think it also gives learners practicing reading longer texts. In the classroom, we tend to read quite short texts, and we're analysing the text in detail for vocabulary and grammar. Obviously, with extensive reading, we're focusing on reading. And there's, you know, some people think, there's a bit of research that extensive reading as much as possible actually improves other skills like writing, listening, and strangely speaking. There's quite a bit written about that. So obviously this is because extensive reading gives repetition. You're seeing things over and over and over again. One of the keys to language learning, as you know, you're all successful language learners, is repetition, so recycling language. Same with grammar as well, and structures. Obviously, language is presented in a context. So if you're reading, as somebody said, about your island, they know what the topic is. They know, you know, that they know that the language as they read is going to be related to an island. Somebody said, I think as well, using, you know, learners' background knowledge. So obviously, if they're reading something they perhaps already know about or have some idea, it's going to be easier than reading something they don't know about. You know, if I read something about nuclear science, I'm not going to understand it because I don't know anything about that subject. Obviously, it allows learners to practice reading skills rather than focusing on vocabulary. You know, as teachers, perhaps we you know, vocabulary is really important, don't get me wrong, but if you're going to develop reading skills, you want a text where perhaps only 5% is unknown to you. And obviously develops learner autonomy. So especially in terms perhaps of homework, our learners are choosing what they want to read, and we're not telling them. And so, you know, usually, especially for teenagers, if they're able to make their own choices, they're more likely to do it than if they're told what to do. So I think there are a lot of advantages here. And obviously in Unit 5, we give you more information about this, and there's lots and lots of links of activities, tasks, and websites you can use with your own learners.
And that leads us beautifully to the last thing that we'd like you to do, which is try out some of these ideas with your own learners. So as Nick says, there's lots of information within the unit and tasks that you might want to give your students to try and get them to read more in their free time, perhaps making a record of what they're reading, or sharing with others in their class, or you know, you could think about setting up small groups like in your WhatsApp groups with your students where they can communicate with each other and tell each other what they've been reading. So have a go at putting one of these ideas into practice, and then on your WhatsApp group, share with each other what went well, and then perhaps anything that you could do better. We said to the group this morning in the Zoom session that we've noticed that some of the WhatsApp groups have gone a little bit quiet recently. So please, for the last couple of weeks of the course, do make the most of this opportunity to engage with each other in your WhatsApp groups. Again, we said this morning, but to tell you, to remind you as well, you don't have to be writing lots and lots in your WhatsApp group. It can just be a quick message, you know, I did this, my students read a book. Next time, I might get them to read 2 books, for example. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot. Or, you know, I found this really useful website where there's lots of accessible reading material that our students would find interesting. Here's the link to it. So it can just be sharing, you know, very small pieces of information with your fellow teachers that everybody can benefit from.
Exactly. Yeah, good points. Totally agree.
Good. Okay. That's it then for today. Any final questions before we say goodbye or good evening, good night to you? Stop sharing.
Goodbye.
Goodbye
Thank
then.
you.
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you.
Thanks.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
everybody. See you next week.
See you
Thanks,
next
Miss
week.
Nick.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
30 minutes is not enough.
Thanks, Mr.
It's
Nick.
not enough, actually.
What's that, Nina?
You.
It's not enough, actually.
Not long enough. I know the time's never enough, is it?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
I do miss this Thursday.
Oh, that's good. Good.
Goodbye.
Yes.
See you next time.
Bye
See you next
bye.
time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Good evening.
Good evening. Bye.
See you next week.
See you next